This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Coming up on today's show for your December 13th, 2022, I'll talk with Dr. J.D. Fiechtner of Boehringer Ingelheim as we talk about swine health. We'll also have a look at that ag weather forecast, but for right now, let's run down the markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and we're going to turn to Tyler Schau of agmarket.net. Tyler, what did we see in the grain trade today?
A lot of up and then kind of fading out through here through the end of the day. This morning at 7:30 Central Time, the CPI data came out. That's your inflationary data. A lot of the analysts were expecting CPI to be about 7.3%, and that's a year-over-year increase. Prices of goods and services 7.3% higher than they were a year ago at this time, and that came in at 7.1%. So not a lot lower. And basically what that's saying is, all right, so inflation's still there. It's just not as hot as it has been. In fact, the year-over-year increase was the lowest it had been in like 11 months. So it helped the market kind of maybe feel a little more confident that out of this FOMC meeting that's coming up, I think it's today and tomorrow, that the next rate hike on interest rates will only be a 50 basis point hike instead of a 75 basis point hike. Well, I guess we'll find out. Chairman Powell is going to speak tomorrow afternoon after the meeting. We'll get the press conference and we'll find out. But what happened shortly after the release of that is your equity futures, your Dow Jones index futures, your S&P shot up. The Dow Jones was actually up 1,000 points at one point shortly after the release of that data. And then the balloon popped. Basically, your Dow Jones futures is almost down to unchanged. Same with your S&P futures. Grains on the morning open at 8:30 were all higher, considerably higher, and they've all faded. So, and we had corn, March corn up to 660. It's going to settle here at about 652 and a half in that range. So a lot of the air got taken out of that. Again, we've been talking the last few days, soybeans are going to close up about 18 to 20 cents. Probably likely some more of that spreading action where people are buying beans, selling the corn and wheat against it.
So what really led to that bubble pop, as you said, where we had that 1,000-point gain in the Dow, and then all of a sudden it just tempers right back down to unchanged? What caused that settle? There
was a lot of people beforehand, a lot of these analysts, and I think it was I can't remember if it was JP Morgan, if they were the ones that came out just yesterday and said if we saw a print on the CPI 6.9%, you can see stocks go wild. And so I think you just had a lot of people sitting there at the computer, fingers on the mouse, ready to pounce. Either side of it, if it would come above 7.3, I think you'd have seen a lot of selling. It came under 7.3, and so it's just a whole lot of buy action came in there. You've always got in this digital world that we trade in now, there's always these stops that are sitting out there. So probably had a lot of sell stops sitting there, and as the market, buy stops on short positions. So as the market went up, it started stopping people out, which just accelerates the move. Takes a little bit of time for the market to digest what really happened, and they decided real quick that okay, this is way overdone to the upside, and so for a while this morning we saw money flowing in. Every single contract on my screen was green. It looked like a great day, and as I said, as we went throughout the day, as those equity markets started to fade, the grains followed along.
So let's say we get that 0.5% increase from the Fed here tomorrow. What would that do to the grain markets? Or even if they would go 75-point increase, what would that do? Kind of one worst case scenario.
If they do go 75% increase, I think that's, or a 0.75%, I should clarify. I think that would be negative to the grain space tomorrow, as a lot of people are looking for interest rates. I mean, no one's looking for interest rates to come down. We know they're going to continue to bump them up. But, at least if we get a 50-point basis hike, that signals to the market that the Fed is ready to start slowing down their rate of increases. And, we might be seeing a point where we'll top out on interest rates. And I doubt that they'll come down anytime soon, but they'll at least level out, and we'll kind of have a little better picture on what the future of the interest rate hikes look like. Right now, we're kind of in this limbo mode where, are we going to end up at 7%? Are we going to end up at 8%? Are we going to end up at 10%? And there's a lot of dialogue back and forth, just trying to figure out how high the Fed's going to have to go to try to cut inflation. Their goal is to get inflation back down to 2%. So the fact that the CPI number was down today, it at least shows that the actions they're taking is starting to work.
All right, let's switch over to the livestock side of things, cattle and hogs. Tyler, what did we see?
Decent moves to the upside. Hogs had a start of a good day, had kind of a pretty good turnaround. They faded as well as the market came to a close. There really wasn't a lot of fundamental news out. I would point out on the fat cattle side, the USDA box beef cutout ended up closing up $8 higher yesterday. So we're seeing that cutout number. It's kind of fallen down here over the last few months. It's finding some legs, which is telling us packers are able to move the product. It's going to keep them coming to the well to try to find them. And I mentioned yesterday that it does kind of feel like maybe we're starting to see that lack of slaughter-ready cattle out there in the yards. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next several months. If we finally see that push from the packer to go out and really aggressively bid up these cattle, and will they get to that 165, 170 mark in the fat cattle? I think it's highly likely. I think the numbers aren't there. Feed costs have come down considerably over the last couple months anyhow. So I think there's a good chance we see some active buying in that fat cattle space, which is going to prop up all the meats.
All right. Well, Tyler, if folks want to talk market strategies with agmarket.net and get some information, how do they get in touch?
Check us out, the website, agmarket.net. There's our contact page there. You can check out any of the brokers and reach out to us. While you're there, sign up for our Ag Intel. And then also check out the conference we're going to have in Nashville, which is about farming for profit, not price. It'll be the first Sunday and Monday of February in 2023.
All right. Well, Tyler, thanks so much for your insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
But take care, Dustin.
That again was Tyler Schau of agmarket.net. Let's run down those closing numbers, courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. March corn down a half at 653 and a half. May down a half at 653 and a half. December 23 new crop down a penny at 596 even. January beans up 19 and a quarter at 1479 and 3/4. March up 19 at 1484 and a half. November new crop 23 up 8 3/4 at 1391 and 3/4. Soy meal up $2.10 at $452.30. Soy oil up $1.92 at $64.12. Chicago wheat down 4 at $7.50 and 3/4. Minneapolis up 6 1/2 at $9.22 and 3/4. Kansas wheat up 3 at $8.65 and 1/4. March oats unchanged at $3.40 and 3/4. February live cattle up 25 cents at $156.35. January feeders up 57 cents at $184.22. February lean hogs 87 cents higher at $84.57. December pork cutouts $1.22 higher at $88.05. Class 3 milk up a penny at $20.51. And that's been a check of our market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. And when we come back, we'll talk with Boehringer Ingelheim's Dr. J.D. Fiechtner about swine health. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. When we talk about swine health, a lot of our concern automatically goes to African swine fever. However, there's a whole host of diseases out there besides that, and ones that we have to battle now. One of those is PRRS. I had a chance to talk with Dr. J.D. Fiechtner of Boehringer Ingelheim, and here's what he had to tell us about the latest in swine health. We're talking right now with Dr. Jerome Fiechtner, or J.D. Fiechtner, with Boehringer Ingelheim Swine. He is the senior key account veterinarian with that division. Thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right, so obviously one of the things we're going to talk about today is PRRS. It's something that, you know, it's a horrible disease, but it's kind of fallen in the background a little bit as everybody's panicking about African swine fever and whether it's here or not going to be here. But obviously it's still a very real and present threat that we have to deal with.
Yes, PRRS is the #1 most significant economic disease in the U.S. swine industry today. It's estimated to cost somewhere between $580 and $660 million a year, which is about $1.8 million per day. So it's very significant in its effect in the herds. The frustrating part of it is it's such a variable virus that causes the disease with a lot of strains and diversity, and so it's been very difficult to get a dramatic hold on total control of it that we would like.
All right, so tell us a little bit, first of all, you know, obviously with that strain, it's been around for quite a while. We know that. I've dealt with it on our farm when I was growing up too. It's a fact of how do you kind of plan for prevention and even dealing with the situation?
What it is there's three things. You want to maximize protection, you want to minimize exposure and transmission, and you want to mitigate the risks of the disease. And so the ways to deal with that is there's some strategic vaccination which can be done if you're in high risk areas. You practice good biosecurity. If you can avoid it and keep it out, that's the best answer to combating PRRS. It's such a difficult disease that finds ways to get there. So using the biosecurity and then biocontainment if you happen to get it, to keep it maintained to just that one site instead of spreading downstream or laterally. The key is you have to use an entire toolbox. There's not one panacea that works great on this. There are tools that can be used, such as vaccine, such as mitigation implementations, and also proper animal husbandry and care for the animals to minimize the effects of the secondary bacterial diseases which will come in and take advantage of a stressed pig that's infected with PRRS.
Let's talk about the vaccination first. And obviously you want to get out ahead of it if you can. Let's talk about what kind of options they have available and what kind of results we're seeing.
What it amounts to, vaccines have been around. I think the Boehringer Ingelheim vaccine, Ingelvac MLV, has been around since the mid-90s. And it is a way to reduce and or prevent disease if you can get vaccinated ahead of wild type exposure. In some systems it can be fairly consistent, and so you can kind of plan that timing. In others it gets introduced in an unknown way, and so you can't always plan. If you're in high risk areas, you put your vaccine strategy in. The key is to vaccinate ahead of exposure to wild type virus so they have a chance to generate immunity to be at the top of their game when they see the wild type virus. The vaccine has been proven consistently in studies to reduce the amount of viral load and viremia. It reduces clinical expression of the disease, and it helps in pig performance such as average daily gain and reducing mortalities versus non-vaccinated pigs.
Now, going into the biosecurity, obviously that's something that's always kind of evolving, always kind of changing, but yet has the same basic principles. What kind of things are really working to help with that biosecurity to keep it from coming in?
Yeah, I mean, biosecurity is the #1 game for PRRS is if you can avoid getting it in the first place. That would be the best scenario. And so the biosecurity is to stop it from being introduced by pigs. If you're running a sow herd, you have to make certain that your replacement animals, replacement gilts, are negative or naive coming in. There's testing that can be done on that so you don't introduce a new strain with pigs. You have the people component, which you have clean, dirty lines where you have shower-in facilities, shower-out facilities, swing-over benches from a Danish system that stop people between their boots and their clothes or their hands from introducing contaminated fomites to bring it in, and you have to apply the same principles to any tools, equipment, or supplies that you bring in to mitigate the risk of PRRS being introduced. The problem is PRRS can also, under the right conditions, spread by the air and the wind. That's a little bit more difficult. You've probably seen in the industry there's filtered barns to try and take out dust particles and prevent PRRS that way, but it is such a diverse virus. It changes very easily because of the virus structure, and so it's very difficult to get 100% protection against it.
Now that, and biosecurity is very easy to manage, especially when you're talking about some of these, the newer barn technologies we've got. But let's say someone's got some of the older confinement barns, or there are people out there that still, raise the hogs outdoors, and some of the, obviously the PERS doesn't care where the hog is raised. So what can those people that kind of go back to maybe they're organic or something, well, what can they do to help prevent that biosecurity?
You control what you can control. And so you don't have visitors, you don't have other pigs, you have security such as fences, closed doors, netting for indoor facilities that can be utilized, because it's most likely to come in on a pig, come in on people or personnel that are caring for the pigs. And the other aspect is the all-in, all-out component, where you take every pig off that site so you don't have a carrier pig that will reintroduce to new pigs coming on the site, and a complete wash, clean, disinfection, sanitization, and drying of the facility so that it's not contained in there. Outside pigs, you're going to have a little bit less success with that because it can survive for a significant amount of time in bedding and in other fomites there. So you control what you can control to minimize the exposures. Nothing's 100% unfortunately today, because we don't completely understand everything of this virus, of how it enters into the pig population and how it persists in that pig population to counteract every aspect of it.
So then let's just say now we've got a barn, whether it's just one barn on a facility or whatever have you, all of a sudden it shows up. What do producers need to know at that point, and what do consumers need to understand at that point about what's done to protect that kind of supply and the pork supply in general?
What it amounts to is this is a disease that is specific for pigs. It doesn't have any effects on the human who would be consuming the products that come from a pig that has gone through this virus infection. What can be done? You have to practice great animal husbandry and care, making sure the environment, making sure the temperature, feed, and water are all at the epitome of what that pig needs. And you make certain to do the proper appropriate treatments on pigs that may be affected by secondary bacterial infections, which will take advantage of a stressed pig. So you do all those things, and then that's where the biocontainment comes in. Whereas if you have a PERS break on a site, you basically want to maintain that it just stays there. And so that's where all the dirty clothes and all the pigs and everything around that site stay there as much as they can, or that you plan your protocols appropriately so that you don't spread it by accident.
All right, so if folks want more information on PERS prevention or any other of the host of swine disease preventions that can be done and what can be done with Boehringer Ingelheim, how do they find that information?
There's great online resources. If you want specific instructions tailored to your individual production system, talk to your herd veterinarian that you're working with. They have a lot of those resources available. Boehringer Ingelheim has been doing research on PERS for 3 decades. They have loads of information that can be accessed either through their professional service veterinarian, of which I'm a member of that team, also through their key account managers and salespeople have access to those materials that you can review and see how they apply, using all the people and resources that are available to allow you to make the best decisions to mitigate the negative impacts of this disease.
All right, well, Doctor, I thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you.
That again was Dr. J.D. Fiechtner of Boehringer Ingelheim. Let's run down that ag weather outlook. Well, it's been a rainy day here in Des Moines, and it's been rainy across much of the state. You might see a little bit of clearing now and then. Check local listings. Now, tonight we could see some clouds start to push off a little bit, but it won't be for long, as there's a chance of snow moving into the forecast for tomorrow. Where is it going to fall? Well, let's find out what the National Weather Service has to say for the next 24 hours. Well, we did have a rainy start to the day here in Des Moines, and of course that rain fell across much of the state. We did see a winter weather advisory in the northwest part of the state this morning. Wind advisories did taper off overnight. We did see highs today in the upper 30s to the low 50s. Now tonight, rain will continue across much of the state. We'll see a mixture of snow further in the north. It'll be clearing in the southwest, and we'll see lows mid to upper 20s to the upper 30s. Tomorrow, rain will taper off in the east. Sunshine will return across much of the state with snow possible in the northwest, and highs will be in the low 30s to the mid 50s. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map, we see tomorrow Cherokee will have a chance of flurries and 33 degrees. Shenandoah partly sunny, 37. Des Moines sunny and 37. Waterloo partly sunny, 45. Albion will be sunny and 44. Clinton will see that rain finishing off here throughout the day and a high of 54 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been our Ag Weather Outlook. And with that, we're at the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and on our YouTube channel. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we put out an episode of Ag Matters PM. You can also subscribe to our free twice daily market podcast from Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Mark Magnuson and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.